Well, they lived up to the expectations of their name. Stranger Things has gotten stranger yet. All sorts of little things happen in these 3 episodes. Welcome to the heart of the stories we tell. My name is Rob, and tonight I will be reviewing my continuing look at Season 2 of Stranger Things. For those of you that missed the first few episodes, I did review episodes 1, 2, and 3 together, and you can go back and check those. But for right now, we're going to move on to episodes 4, 5, and 6. Because there's 9 episodes, it just seemed to make sense to me to do them in blocks of 3. For those of you that don't know what I do here, what I do is I review stories in general. Movies, books, comic books, TV shows, Netflix, you name it. And what I do is I try to figure out the whys and the hows of how we tell them. I also, along the way, get to say, hey, this is what they did well and what they did bad. If that sounds interesting, click the subscribe button, because we're going to get started with Strange Things. Now, so far, the group is not back together entirely. 11 has not yet seen any of them as of the beginning of these episodes. And as of right now, Demogorgon isn't the main villain. But, well, there was a little bit of a surprise at the end of episode 4, so we'll leave that for the spoiler section. In general, Stranger Things is dealing with the aftermath. All of the things that come, all the baggage that you get loaded with by living through a horror movie, or in this case, a horror series. But now it's time to throw up that spoiler warning. So once again, it's stop, spoiler time. Before I go into specifics about the episodes, I do want to just ask, what do you guys think about how Eleven was portrayed in general this season? I think that she's just as badass, but she comes off a little more earthly, a little more normal of a kid. Maybe that ruins part of it. Will the Wise picks up pretty much right where the last episode left off, and we learn that the Shadow Thing has entered into him. Now, Will the Wise is actually some sort of cleric that he played, or at least a drawing he made of a cleric, so yay to Gary Gygax and D&D reference. We also spend a lot of the episode learning exactly what was going on inside that facility. Because not only was the sheriff shown around, but now so were 2 of the kids. Although they had a tape recorder, and that is pretty badass. As we all know, also the little creature that they're trying to find was found, and was almost smashed last time he was in the AV room. And you have to remember that people are going to say that it was Max's fault for letting it out, but realistically, who knows if that thing could have ripped through the door or not. And Max was perfectly fine in being scared and jumping away from that thing, because that was a pretty scary, messed up creature, even before we learned what it was at the end of the episode. Of course, that is probably the biggest shocker moment. It's a baby Demogorgon. How that part of this information will play out in the next few episodes, I'm really kind of curious about, and can hardly wait to jump into the next. But before I do, I want to talk a little more about how they're all relating to each other. How the friends are still just working together, even when their rivalries are showing, even when they're being asses to each other. That's what friends do in 8th grade. But at the same time, we have, like I said before, 11 throwing a temper tantrum, much like a girl in the 8th grade would. But we also show her powers developing. I mean, she could have really hurt the sheriff if she had kept going. I mean, think about it. Yeah, holding that TV down was one thing, but she threw the book at him. She threw the couch at him. And as much as he came off as the ass for saying things like, hey, no TV for a week, to someone who's the TV's their only lifeline that they're holding on to human contact, he is right. She needed to be punished for what she did. She broke the rules knowingly, but at the same time, maybe he needs to figure out a way to give her some way. And the fact that he skipped out on Halloween, that she was right. Going out as a ghost was the best choice she could have made. It would have allowed her to be in mask without being hunted. I'm really curious to see what happens when her and Will meet up, and both of them have their connection to the Upside Down. But for now, there's one last bit of relationship I want to talk about. I'm sure by the end of the season we'll know, but what is up with Max and her not older brother? He seems almost like an abusive douche, and I really don't get the whole thing. Well, on to Chapter 5. Dig Dug, the arcade game. But really, this is all about conspiracy theories, and yes, I did do a whole video counting down some of my favorites of those stories. But this is a conspiracy theorist's wet dream, someone that actually knows the truth, showing up at your door and saying, here's what happened. But it's also the stuff of nightmares, or where video games start. I'm going to tell you the truth, but it might put your life in danger. I'm going to tell you what happened last year, but you might get arrested, or worse. Oh, by the way, there was a giant friggin' space monster from the Upside Down. What's the Upside Down? That's what we call this place that just isn't real. Oh yeah, by the way, everyone's favorite sheriff's life's in danger, and the most powerful member of the Group 11 who hasn't regrouped with them yet is out looking for her mother. And I'll be honest, at that point I thought that those were routes they were drawing and that the routes would be underground, but Bob figures out that they are roads, or well, a map of the city, and that's how you're going to find Hopper. Well, he's the only one that doesn't get an explanation of what's going on. Which brings us back to our ongoing theme of finding your place in the world, because part of that is who do you trust and who do you tell what happened to? Who is it that would believe you if you said something so insanely crazy as, there was a monster? I don't know if I have any friends that I could actually go to without proof, and they would believe me. Mostly because most of them would think I was messing with them. Then again, as this episode showcased, and I loved the way they said it, there are so many people that are concerned with keeping that veil up, that this wouldn't just rip down that veil, but the one beyond it and the one beyond that. So once someone in power said, nope, that's a total fraud, they'd go, see, told you so. That's kind of the way the world works, really. And it's why a situation like this just becomes so much more real when no one believes it. But having said no one believes it, we also have Bob the superhero figuring out where Hopper is. And, you know, I mean, seriously, how many guys who were weak and just basically a Radio Shack employee would risk their life going down there for some woman? And of course, then we have the revelation of what it was that Eleven's mom... Should I call her Jane now? I don't know, it just feels weird. But last time I said there was a psychic connection between her. But maybe her and her mom have one too. All in all, another strong episode, and another good reason to watch this. If you aren't watching it yet, seriously, forget these videos, go get a Netflix subscription and watch them. Meanwhile, I'm moving on to episode 6, The Spy. Even when this show does exactly what I think it's going to do, it finds a way to surprise me. I knew that even at the beginning of this episode that this wasn't the final showdown with that little Demogorgon, and that this wasn't going to be the end of whatever the shadow thing was. But as I watched, many things surprised me. Now, I have to say, I really liked the conspiracy theory dude being a good judge of character and being able to read people. I didn't so much like the sex joke about the pulling out, but okay. It was pretty good. I also like the fact that they sent those tapes to everyone, but I'm curious to see if anything actually comes of it, because even the watered-down truth is so easily disproven. As for Bob totally blew me away with his reaction to everything. And I didn't get the whole thing with the memories being gone. But it all still fits the same theme of trying to find yourself. But surprise, there isn't just one Demogorgon running around. There's a bunch. And by the way, not only that, but the shadow thing that lives underneath the city, it's growing, and it can set a trap. And like I said, we all knew from the moment the spy thing came up that it was going to happen. But it still did it in a surprising way. There was a great ambush and a great ender scare. My thoughts now 2/3 of the way through make me sound like a broken record. Everything is going well. I especially like the fact that we finally found out what was going on with Max. The fact that her parents are divorced and that her mother and stepfather are actually in the picture somewhere, even though we haven't met them, cleared things up. In fact, am I the only one that realizes that a lot of parents don't get a lot of screen time in this? I especially adored her version of the story. The whole, well, it's a little derivative, but I liked it, because that totally describes why this is a gold story. Yeah, there's bits of Alien and there's bits of Goonies, but at the end of the day, it's really great. A solid gold, in my opinion. What about you guys? Anyone want to leave a comment down below? Tell me what they think, especially if they've picked up on some sort of symbolism I've missed. And of course, while you're at it, Lego my ego, and give me a thumbs up if you would. I really appreciate that because it helps the channel grow, and especially if you could share this video on other social media. And if this is your first time here, click that subscribe button to join our community. What we do is we examine stories, review stories, and just in general talk about them. Because that's what these stories are all about. They're supposed to get you thinking. And you know what this one has me thinking about? It has me rethinking the way conspiracy theories work. Especially with the fact that those JFK files just got released this week. I don't know. Maybe it's just me thinking about some shadowy government conspiracy to go into the underworld. But for now, I hope you have a good night, and thanks for watching.